cubes, cube roots, not square roots. Monday and Tuesday, we talked about square roots. Today, we're moving to cube roots. So let me ask you a question. You don't have to write this part down, but let me ask you a question. So on your quiz you took, you had questions like this, and you had questions like that. It was on your quiz. And then there was stuff inside. My question is, what was the difference? How did you do the top one versus the bottom one? What were the differences in what you did? Okay, what were the steps? Yeah, different steps. What did you do on this, the top one versus the bottom one? Yeah, the top is square root pairs, right? The top we're looking for pairs. That's square root. 2 times 2 makes 4. That's why 4 is a perfect square. 8 times 8 makes 64. That's why 64 is a perfect square. The bottom, we're looking for triples, right? That's called cube. Cube is what we call for triples. Square is what we call for doubles. Why are the words? Well, if you look at a square, if I draw a square, has no volume, has no depth, right? It doesn't go in, it doesn't come out. It's just a square. It's got length and it's got width, right? But if I draw a cube is 3 dimensions, right? It's got length. It's like this. This is not a cube. All right, this is probably a better picture. This is not a cube, but it's close, right? It's got 3 dimensions, right? So that's why we look for triples with cubes. Okay, that's the difference with cubes. So today we're going to focus on the triples one. So here's my question. The top one is pairs, right? What is the square root of -1? What's the answer to the top one? You've actually had it on a test last semester, the top one. It wasn't real, right? It was imaginary, right? You don't believe me? Go to your calculator. Calculator says, I don't know. Because it was imaginary. Because there are no doubles that make -1. There are no 2 numbers the same that make -1. But is there a triple that makes -1? Will the bottom one give me an answer? Yep, that one gives me an answer, -1. Why does the bottom one give me an answer? Why does that give me an answer, but this one not? They both have the little house. Why does one give me an answer and the other doesn't? Exactly. The top one is looking for triples. Is there a number, one number I can multiply by itself 3 times that makes -1? -1 times -1 is what? Not a trick question. +1 times another -1? -1. That's what it's saying. Can I multiply 2 numbers that are the same that makes -1? No, I can't. That's what that's saying. So today, we're not going to look at the pink ones. We're not looking at pink today. We're looking at orange today. Different numbers. These are all the cubes. -2 times -2 times -2 makes -8. -1 times -1 times -1 makes -1. 0 times 0 times 0. 1 times 1 times 1. 2 times 2 times 2 makes 8. 3 times 3 times 3 makes 27. Keep going. I can keep going forever. Okay? That's the difference what we're doing today. Cubes, not squares. Okay, so let's look at example number 1. Couple things. There's a couple typos here. First thing is this guy should have a little 3 with it. That guy should have a little 3 with it. And then the sentence should say cube root, not square root. Okay. So this is going to be a lot like we did yesterday. Yesterday, we figured out which numbers to plug in, right? We looked at our list to figure those out. But we're not doing squares today. We're doing cubes. So the numbers I'm going to plug in are -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. I'm going to pick an extra one. Extra one today, and I'll tell you why in a second. Why am I choosing these numbers? Because they're all perfect cubes. They're all perfect cubes. Okay. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to figure out the cube root of -8. I'm going to figure out the cube root of -1. The cube root of 0. The cube root of 1. And the cube root of 8. So just like we use the Desmos app, just like we use all that good stuff. Okay. Olivia, do I have your focus up here? Okay, can you put the phone away, please, and then close the Chromebook? Thank you. Okay. So go to my calculator. Cube root, -8. -2. There's my first dot. When I plug in -8, I get -2. So I go left 8, down 2. Okay. Next one is -1. -1. Left 1, down 1. Next one, 0. Zero. Cube root of 0, 0. Take a dot. Last one is 1. Or sorry, next one is 1. Cube root of 1. 1. Last one, 8. 2. 2, 4. Okay, draw a picture. There we go. Looks exactly like the picture I have on the board. It looks a little bit different than the one we were working on the last 2 days. The one we had the last 2 days kind of looked like that. Maybe a little taller. Kind of look like that. Today, it's got a tail. What causes that tail? The negatives, yeah, the negative numbers. With square roots, there are no negatives. There are no negatives in squares, right? No negatives. Start at 0, go positive. With the cubes, it can be negative. So that's why I want you to pick 5 numbers today because of this tail. We have to take into account the tail. Yesterday didn't have a tail. Okay? All right, so that's the parent. Every one we do, I'm going to say, how is this one different than the one we did for number 1? Okay, so we're going to keep coming back to that just like we did yesterday. So let's go to number 2. First thing we do, look inside the root. What's inside the root? Just x, right? So if just x is inside the root, I can use my numbers I used earlier. -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. That won't always be the case, but if x is alone, you can use those numbers. So -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. Okay, so what I want you to do now, phone's out, Desmos. Go to either the Desmos app or Google search Desmos scientific calculator. Okay, if you don't have one, don't worry about it. I'll do it up here. But if you can do it on your own, great, because this is what you're going to be doing tomorrow when you do practice. So the first number is -8. The second one is -1. The third one is 0. The next one is 1. The last one is 8. So when I plug in -8, well, first of all, let me go build this guy. So this is where I'm going to plug it in, and on the outside is a +5. First number I'm going to plug in was -8. 3. Next number was -1. 4. Next number was 0. Oops. 5. Next number was 1. 6. Last was 8. 7. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 5 dots. First dot, -8, +3. -8, +3. There's 1. Next dot, -4 up, -1 up 4. Next dot, 0, 5. 1, 6. 8, 7. Okay. Draw the picture. Okay, so that's what this picture looks like versus what the picture looked like for number 1. That's the first thing I'm going to ask you. What's the difference? What are the differences between the picture you have in front of you and the parent? Transformations. The differences are called transformations. How did it change? How did it change from parent to kid? What's one thing? Mm-hmm. Moved up, right? It moved up. How many did it move up? Yeah, it looks like it moved up 5, right? 0, 0 is a dot on the parent. The kid has one at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like it went up, shifted up 5 units. Okay, shifted up 5 units. Does it look like it got taller or shorter or changed directions, flipped, reflected, or shift went left or right? No, that looks like about it, right? That looks like it. Just went up 5, right? Same look, just went up 5. That's that guy right there, plus 5. So let's go write that in the box. Plus 5. Which letter does plus 5 represent? A, H, or K? K. Just like yesterday, right? Just like yesterday. K shifts graph up or down. That's K's job. Just like yesterday. Up or down. It takes it up, takes it down. Doesn't go left or right. Doesn't do anything else. K just goes up or down. So when we have a positive K, I went up. When I have a negative K, I go down. On the one we just did, it was plus 5. Plus 5 means it went up 5. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to number 3. Anytime you're making a table, start inside the radical, right here, inside the radical. I always highlight it or underline it because that's where I'm starting. What are the numbers that I would like to use when I'm plugging into a cube root? What are the numbers I would like to use? I'll give you a hint. What numbers did I use? Have I used already? -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8, right? The top 5 numbers on my list. So what number do I need to plug in here to give me -8? Just in the yellow, just in the orange, plus -13, right? Is it -13 plus 5, -8? That's going to be my first number, right? It was the same as yesterday, except yesterday I wanted to create 0, 1, 4, and 9, right? Today I want to create some different numbers because it's not a square root anymore. Okay, so the next number I want to create is -1. What number am I going to plug in the parentheses to make -1? -6, good. You guys got it. The next number I want to create is 0. What number would I put for 0? -5, good. The next number I'd like to create is +1. What number would I put for +1? -4. -4. That would make +1. Last one I want to make is 8. What number would I plug in for 8 to make 8? 3. Now I can go to my calculator. Now I can go to my calculator and figure out what those numbers are, what those values actually are. So in my calculator, I'm going to plug -13 plus 5. -6 plus 5. Oops, -4. Okay, so I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to plug in those 5 things and see what I get, and that'll be my dots. Okay. Okay, that's going to be my blank. I don't want negative positive 5 there. I want it on the inside. Okay, so negative 8. Or sorry, negative 13 was the first one. Negative 13. When I plug in negative 13, I get negative 2. That's my first dot. Oops, negative 13, negative 2. The next one I plugged in was negative 6. When I plug that in, I get negative 1. Next one I plugged in was negative 5. 0. Next one was negative 4. 1. And then the last one I plugged in was 3. 2. Dots. First one, negative 13. So I got to go left, left 13, down 2. I don't think I can make it 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. So I got to go a little bit over. It's going to kind of be right about there. Just off my graph. Negative 6, negative 1. Left 6, down 1. Negative 5, 0. So just left 5. Negative 4, 1. 3, 2. Okay. Same question. What's the difference between, this is the kid here, the new kid, this is the parent. What's the difference between them? 6 units, right? Or sorry, not it moved. Which way did it move? Up, down, left, or right? So it's looks like it should be that way, right? So it moved left, right? The 0, 0 is no longer at 0, 0. It moved left 5 units. So shifted left 5 units. Okay. Anything else? Anything else with it? Taller, shorter, different directions, reflected, moved up or down? I think that was it, right? That was it. So plus 5 in this time was on the inside. So plus 5 is H, right? The last one was K. So this one is H. H shifts graph left or right. So if I have a positive H or a negative H, my question is, which way is it going to shift? So I just had a positive 5. Which way did it shift, left or right? So left. Positive 5, positive numbers move left. Negative numbers Move right. It's opposite of what you normally think. It's opposite of what you think. Normally you think positive means move right, negative means move left. That's different with H. H is a liar. We've talked about that a lot. H is a liar. It says one thing, does another. K tells the truth. If it's positive, it goes up. Negative goes down. But K or H is a liar. Okay. Okay, let's do the last two. Okay, so number 4. Start inside the root. What's inside the root? Just x. There's no x plus 5. There's no x minus 4. There's just x. So if that is it, you can use -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. I don't have to tweak them at all, right? Like I did on the last one. So this one's going to be -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. Okay. So I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to plug in those numbers in there. So 2 is in front now. The only, let's see, what was -3 was on the outside. First one, -8. When I plug in -8, you get -7. Next one, -1. You get -5. Zero. -3. 1. -1. 8. +1. And those are our dots. -3, -1, +1. So -8, -7. Left 8. Down 7. -1, -5. Down 1, down 5. 0, -3. 1, -1. 8, 1. Okay, there's that picture. All right. What's transformed or different about this kid than the parent? What's the obvious one? What kind of looks like? Shifted down. That's a shift. It's a shift down, right? Shifted down 3. -3. Shifted down 3 units. There's one more difference. Stretched out, right? It looks like I grabbed the parent like this and stretched. That's what it looks like, right? It looks like it got taller or stretched. It did. stretched out, taller. Didn't shift left or right. Didn't go left or right. We know that because there's no H. H is 0. So we got an A this time. We're used to having A as 1. A made it stretch. The bigger A gets, the more it stretches out. If I were to make A 3, 4, 5, it would stretch out even more. Stretch out even more. Okay? And then K was -3. Okay, so let's go put that in A's box. A's got 2 boxes because A's got 2 jobs. As A grows, graph will stretch taller. As A grows, graph will stretch or get taller. How do I get it shorter? How do I shrink it? Smaller numbers, yeah. What are smaller numbers? Not negatives. Negatives are going to do something else. Decimals. Yep. Decimals, fractions, 1/2, anything smaller than 1. Right? Change, like change in your pocket, less than $1. Change in your pocket, less than $1. Anything less than 1 will make that smaller, shorter, shrink it. Okay, last one. In the orange, underneath the root, I have a -1 with it. So I want to make -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. That's what I want to make. So what number do I plug in to make -8? -7, right? -7. If I plug in -7 there in the orange, it's going to make -8. So that's going to be my first number. The next number I want to make is -1. How do I make -1? What number do I plug in to make -1? What -1 is -1? That's +1. Close. We're going to need that one later. I don't want to make +1. I want to make -1. 0. There you go, 0. And if I want to make 0, 1. And then, like you said, 2 makes +1. And then what makes +8? Nine. Okay, go to your calculator, make dots, and we'll be done. So it's got a negative in front. And it's got a -1 on the inside and a +4, -4, +4. So the first number I said was -7. Why did I choose -7? Because when I subtract inside, I get -8. That's the number I want. So I get 6. When I plug in -7, I get 6. Next number is 0. When I plug in 0, it's lagging. You get 5. It's lagging right now. I don't know why it's not. There we go. No. I get 5. When I plug in 1, I get 4. When I plug in 2, I get 3. Last number is 9. When I plug in 9, I get 2. Go make dots. And tell me what the difference is. What's the transformation? What are the transformations? Flipped, right? It flipped. The top arrow usually was going right, and then the bottom arrow usually was going left. This one got flipped, right? So it reflected. Slash flipped. There are 2 others. Hey. Shift. Shifted what? Say it again. Abigail. Shifted right 1 unit. We know that because h is -1. 1 more. Shifted up 4 units. Shifted up 4 units. And that's because K was +4. So the last box, why did it flip? Why did it reflect? Because A is negative. Anytime A is negative, it's going to flip. Anytime A is negative, it's going to flip. Okay, so put that in the last box in the front. If A is negative, it's going to reflect. Okay. If A is negative, it's going to look like that. Reflect. Flip. Okay. Okay, I'm going to pass out the tape. While you're doing that, I want you to look at a picture. I'm going to show you a picture. Actually, it's more than a picture. It's a test question that you'll see next week. But I want to show it to you today because some of you are like, Mr. Flores, are you going to have me on the test? Are you going to have us like explain in words? Are you going to have us make a table? How are you going to have us do it? I'll show you. I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Today, there's no pressure because it's not the test. Next week, there will be. So that's what I want to show you today. Okay? So let me show you today. The red one is the parent. What is the equation for the blue dashed? So how to do this, what are the differences? In words, what are the differences? What's the first difference? Shifted, right? Which way did it shift? Left. That means H. What does H got to be to shift to the left? Positive. Positive 7 because it shifted 7, right? It shifted 5, 6, 7. That's one. There's one other. Did it reflect? It flipped, right? So I need a negative out there. Done. That's the question I'm going to give you. It'll be like that. I'll give you 2. Tell me what. So you got to know what A does. You got to know what H does. You got to know what K does. You're not going to have to graph. You're not going to have to make a table. You're not going to have to use a calculator. It makes it super simple as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, that's what we're going to practice tomorrow. Okay? That's what we're going to practice tomorrow.